And we're live. Hey, everybody. It's Ace. Welcome. I had a little technical delay here. I was in the middle of trying to make a trade and also trying to go live at the same time because there was some sell pressure. And now there looks like there's some buy pressure. Anyway, welcome in. I hope you guys are having a great day. I am on StreamYard. Most of you should be watching on YouTube right now. I do not have any idea how the chat is going to work. So if you guys are in here right now and you are taking a look, feel free to comment or chat. Hopefully I'll be able to see it at some point. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump in here. So today is all about the first round of three, or I guess I could say phases. This is phase one of the first drop for NFL players into the marketplace. It's headlined by Patrick Mahomes, of course, the most successful active quarterback in the NFL. There's definitely some buy pressure right now. He is at 0.106. I believe he topped out around 14 or 15 cents. Market cap is 4.74. I believe it topped out at 5.11 earlier. And keep in mind, we're just in phase one, so we still have 2/3 of the player pool to be able to jump in. Amon St. Brown is currently number 2. Bijan, Bowers, and Jefferson round out the top 5. I was targeting Jefferson and Bowers. Now, for those of you who play on the football side, the soccer side, you're comfortable with the marketplace. I have never done anything on this marketplace, and it showed early as I did not know how to properly change my slippage as I targeted Bowers and Jefferson, and they just kept moving and moving and moving, and then I finally gave up. I did purchase a couple players. Let me tell you who I bought. I purchased Adonze and I purchased AJ Brown. Value buys. I ended up selling off a bunch of guys that I just felt like I would rather reallocate those resources. So not enough guys, but enough, but a decent amount of guys. So let me see where we're at here in regards to our YouTube. Now, AJ is going to be joining me here shortly. Let me make sure I know he's in the middle of this too, so it's a little tricky. But AJ, the CFO of Sports.fun, is going to be jumping in so we can talk about the market a little bit, get a better understanding of what is going on exactly. And I probably should have talked beforehand so I had some idea of how this was playing out. But so okay, it does not look like we have. I'm trying to navigate the StreamYard and the YouTube chat and figure out all these things at the same time. So bear with me. Either way, so what I want to be able to do is kind of take a look here as the market is going to move. I think the top 5 players are probably our key indicators, like the top 5 and the bottom 5. So if we take a look here at the bottom 5, or I should say the bottom 4, Kenneth Walker Kenneth Walker and Hunter Henry are guys I had targeted to dump. I had an opportunity to sell Hunter Henry at 0.018. I did not take it. I was having some challenges with trying to figure out that 15-minute increment when it went from 15% to 10%. And before I blinked, it was at 10%, and the price had already dropped from 0.018 to 0.0173. And now, as you can see, it's 0.015. There's no buying pressure on Hunter Henry right now. He will go down to 3% here in about 10 minutes. We'll see if that creates more selling pressure on him. Kenneth Walker was up around 0.018. There's been a ton of selling pressure on Kenneth Walker. I actually think Kenneth Walker is a hell of a ball player. So I'm not sure where that price is for me to jump in on him. I know that he splits carries with Charbonnet, and that's a little tricky, but I do like Kenneth Walker, and they run the ball very effectively, especially with how well Sam Darnold's been throwing the ball. So we'll see how that plays out. As you can see, I did sell all my shares of McMillan. Happy to say that I sold them around 0.019. Wow, it looks like, no, where are we at? Yeah, Sutton Sutton just moved into the top 20. So I did sell Metcalf. I sold Olave. I bought Odunze. I bought AJ Brown. And that's kind of where I'm at. I had some other guys targeted to sell. I'm kind of in wait and see mode as this kind of plays out. So I'm curious to see what you guys did. We're starting to see there's some buying pressure on Mahomes. He's moved up again. He's over at 11 cents now. St. Brown is definitely moving up. Let's see where we were at before. So as we moved into this phase, St. Brown has moved up 0.022. Bijan Robinson has moved up slightly. Brock Bowers has moved up a bunch, 0.0586 to 0.0629, one of the largest gainers here. Saquon Barkley has actually moved down. Jefferson flip-flopped him. Jefferson is moving up. So the two guys I wanted to target clearly were being targeted by other people as well, and that's not a bad thing. Dak Prescott is moving up right now. So, no, he's not. Dak was at 0.0415. He is now at 0.0367. There's a ton of selling pressure there for Dak. I'm assuming Kelsey's in a similar boat. Yeah, Kelsey is down from 0.0387 to 0.0337. So we're seeing a lot of movement here. Baker, who I believe is a hell of a price at 0.0311, has had a pretty significant drop. Ferguson has not had much of a drop, so that's interesting. So one thing I noticed is obviously there's a lot of buying pressure on the cream of the crop, on the top tier guys. I assume those of you who follow the soccer game, you knew that was going to happen. You probably went really hard at the top, like 5 to 7 guys, and then there were people like me who tried to pick a guy who's going to kind of be on the fringe of that 5 to 7, which I thought Bowers and Jefferson would be. And then I ended up conceding and going after some value buys with the Odunze and AJ Brown. I'm a big Charger fan, but I didn't buy McConkey. I have 11,000 shares of McConkey. And as much as I like the guy, I don't view him as a guy who's going to finish on the podium very often. I feel like he's a really solid 8 catches, 75 yards, maybe a touchdown type guy. Which is going to be good enough to finish in the top 5, but not necessarily good enough to finish on the podium. And I'm really only interested in guys who can finish on the podium. So that is how I am playing the game. So for those of you who do follow football, I don't feel like fantasy football really explains like how the scoring system works, as well as at least the way I digest it. The way I digest it is it's more like best ball. You're basically just looking for your top 3 or your top 5 guys every single week. You're looking for high upside guys. So players that are really consistent, like Jared Goff, are not as attractive because, yeah, he might give you a 285 and 2, but you're going to get beat out by a bunch of guys who are dropping 340 and 2 or 340 and 4. So like Matthew Stafford's just been on a bender lately. So that should kind of give you a little bit of insight as to what's going on here. So I do want to look at the market. We're going to do this. It's going to be clunky. I want to look at the market right now to see if there's any moves that I want to make, and I'll just make some moves live on stream. So this might be buying or selling. St. Brown is still moving well. Bijan. So I'm looking at Bowers. Bowers stayed. In the last 10 minutes, Bowers has not moved, interestingly enough. Oh, give me a second here. So Mahomes is up here. Okay, Bowers was at 0.586. He's up significantly. Barkley has actually come down in the last 10 minutes. JJ has moved up. Where's Kelsey at? Kelsey's down. I think my understanding is we should see a little uptick when Gen Pop jump in. And it's not just Gen Pop, but we're going to see a lot of the whale spending limits are going to go from $300 to $10,000. And that's where things are going to get pretty gnarly. Ferguson. So the two guys I'm mainly looking at right now are Prescott and Ferguson. And the reason why I'm looking at those guys is because I was looking to sell them. Prescott is actually up in the last 10 minutes. That's why if there's any opportunities here to buy, like I like Odunze there. For Odunze's actually dropped a ton. He dropped from 0.0231 10 minutes ago to 0.0189 right now. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. Chris Olave also dropped a ton. So we'll see how this plays out here. It looks like AJ just reached out. I'm going to see if we can steal him for like 10 minutes. He's slammed right now. So I'm going to see if we can jump in. Okay, maybe 5 minutes. All right, he might send a replacement. We'll see how it plays out. I might get Sean on instead. We'll see. The reason why I wanted to have AJ on is, well, AJ's a CFO. So in regards to like managing the market and those kind of things, I feel like he brings a lot of value. What do we got going on? So we're kind of in a I'm seeing this all play out live on the Discord as I'm trying to also keep an eye on the market. So I'm curious how you guys are doing, what's going on in regards to your trades, if your strategy has been successful, what you learned from today, what we're going to take into Thursday. Obviously, we've been able to narrow down this list, right? We started with 72. Now we're down to 48. We know how that's going to play out in the next 48 hours. Let's see. Okay, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. Either way, we are a minute away from jumping into the open phase, which means we need to make some moves, right? Let me see if I can get Sean in here. Let me see if I can. All right, guys. Sorry, I told you it was going to be a little clunky as we kind of flow through this, right? All right. So we're going to get Sean in 15, which means I got to stall for 15 minutes. We're open at a gem pop right now. So let's see how the market reacts. I'm going to take this last screenshot before the market goes wild. And then what I'm going to do is I'll make these, oh my. Market cap just went up to 5.53. So now it looks like now things are going to get a little wild, right? Oop. Okay, let's see what happened here. 5.98 people are now. There's definitely a lot of buying pressure. Okay, so now this is the time. Now, here's what's interesting. The top guys are moving, right? So we're seeing Dak just went up 20%. Goff just jumped huge. 0.0. Wow. Goff like doubled in price. Okay, which sounds like a great opportunity, right? So I'm not exactly sure how this is going to play out. If we're going to keep moving, oh my. Oh, you guys can see I'm taking a look at Goff, right? So are we still going to explode here? Or where are we at? 6.4, 6.67. So we're still moving in the right direction. Mahomes is Wow, that was quick on Mahomes, right? It went up, it went right back down. So this feels like a good time for me to make some moves. All right, so I'm making a couple moves right now. So we're doing this live as it's popping through. So for me, that meant moving Dak. It's also going to mean, for me, it's going to be selling Goff. And there's one more guy who I think is going to be right. Uh-oh, price moved too far. I don't know which way it moved. Is Goff still moving up? No. So I sold on my Dak Prescott shares. Yeah, Goff looks like he's still moving up. Oh, he got a little high. He got up to 7.5 cents for a minute, and now he's at 6.9. Is that where we're at on Goff? 6.6. Wow. Okay. There's a lot of sell pressure all of a sudden. All right, so I'm gonna move Goff. I was not planning on doing this in real time. Wow, look at Ladd McConkey jumped up to almost 6 cents. That's huge. So Ferguson looks like he's right around 4. That's going to be good enough for me. And what I'm planning on doing with this is I'm going to end up pivoting a bunch of stuff here. So I'm selling the guys that I think are going to be overvalued. What I'd like to do is just swap my Ferguson for McBride or for Bowers or for Laporta, but I can't do that. So for me, what I'm trying to do right now is just get the guys I can. I'm a little surprised Kelsey's only at 4 cents. A little surprised. We didn't see a ton of pressure here on Kelsey, right? He was a 0.387. Not a lot of movement there. Cook has had a ton of movement. Wow, all the way up to 7. So now we've got, this is great. Okay, Mahomes, there was that window where Mahomes hit like 20 cents, right? And we just had a bunch of guys over it, over 10 cents. That's starting to come back down. So Goff's starting to come back down. Dask's starting to come back down. I sold on my Jake. You can see I sold Jake. I sold Dak. I sold Goff. Kelsey actually moved in the direction I was looking for. So that's good for me. Let me see if I can get it here on Kelsey. No, it's going to take me a second here. I like selling Kelsey at 0.0468. I'm basically just blowing out all my tight ends today, I believe. So I missed the 468. It's already down to 448. And it's down to 423. I actually don't have a lot of shares of Kelsey relative to my portfolio. It's only 5,500 shares. Okay, and he's gone. So this is I knew you guys are probably listening in the background. Oh, here we go. McConkey on a bye week in week 12. Yes, absolutely. McConkey and Chargers and Patriots are both on a bye week in week 12. So it is interesting. That's a great point. It is interesting to see McConkey's price basically double as the open market hit, and people are like, all right, let's get Ladd. But that's interesting to see. So the good news is that I can actually see your comments. So kudos, guys. Feel free to fill up the comment box. Sean is going to be jumping in. He is the resident NFL expert for Sports.fun. So if you do have questions that you want to ask Sean, make sure you fill it up with the chat, and then I'll punch. There he is. There's the man, the myth, the legend. Let's jump in. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm good, man. You fired up?
Yeah, well, I'm a little bit upset with myself. I sat there all morning, and my decision was to either go for the one path I thought made the most sense or go for greed. And I opted for greed and got punished for it, unfortunately. But that's how it's supposed to work, right? You're supposed to get punished for greed.
Yeah, I feel like this space though, it's very natural. I don't want to say it's greed as much as we're just trying to be opportunistic. So let me ask you, Sean, you also played on the soccer side.
Yep, I still have a bunch of my soccer stuff. I haven't touched anything with soccer at all.
So you had an idea how the market was going to kind of flow, and like I had never made a transaction before an hour and 7 minutes ago, so I fumbled around and ended up just getting slapped in the face a few times.
Oh, so yeah, you probably had. So I had a pretty good idea what it was going to be like. I didn't know this was your first transactional period with these drops. Man, can it be a bit on the messy side in terms of if you sort of brick, you just are going to brick on everybody, or you're going to at least brick. So it's kind of like a parlay, right? If you try to go for this player, so today I think the best player today is Justin Jefferson. That's who I think is the best player.
Yeah, we're on the same page. I targeted Jefferson and Bowers. And
I wish I did that, because going into the day, that was my plan. And then I literally have just heard Patrick Mahomes' name about 8,000 times today. So I was like, well, man, there's just no way Patrick Mahomes does not finish the day as the most expensive player and the best buy you can get. So I was like, okay, I think I've got to try to go for Patrick Mahomes instead. And then I'll go to my secondary targets, because it seemed the difference between this and the soccer product is soccer product, a lot of the time on drop days, there was like one clear guy that was way better than everyone else. And so therefore, if you didn't really go for him, it was just kind of a mistake. Whereas I thought there was a pretty legitimate case you could make for 6 or 7 guys today as the best guy to go for. And so for that reason, I was sort of like, all right, I think I'm going to just go for the better guys that I thought were better, that I will have more likely success with. And that was my plan. I literally have it written down. Let me pull it up. So my plan going into the day is I had 7 guys I wanted to buy more of. And those 7 guys were Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Bijan Robinson, Brock Bowers, and Dak Prescott. Those 5 I wanted to get more of. And then I had Mahomes and Saquon Barkley as like 2 dudes that I wanted to buy, but there was different reasons why I was a little bit more hesitant on it. A little backstory: my dog is actually named after Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
So I was like, I kind of got to get some more of Saquon Barkley in, you know what I mean? So anyways,
are you an Eagles fan?
No, I'm actually not. I'm a Bills. Well, I was a Bills fan growing up, and I've not been like as hardcore of a Bills fan in recent years. So I'm a Penn State fan. And all of my work for the most part is around college football and then NFL as well, but mostly college. So by the time Sunday comes, my brain is like mush, so I don't have as much brain capacity. And Penn State rips my heart out and stomps on it every Saturday anyway, so I don't need more of that with the Bills.
Definitely last Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, every Saturday. Every Saturday is terrible. I just sit there and find a new way to just be miserable on Saturdays. But so anyways, yeah, my plan was to start with Jefferson, St. Brown, Brock Bowers, and I changed it at like 11:30. And I'm like, I'm just going to go for the big dog and go for Mahomes. And boy, did I fail miserably.
How much did you adjust your slippage to?
I turned my slippage to 55%.
Okay.
Which I guess wasn't enough. But
well, I see these guys in the Discord and they're like, 1,000% slippage, 2,000% slippage. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to play in that pool.
Yes.
So, that's obviously why I ended up targeting Bowers and Jefferson. I felt like Jefferson would be, I could kind of go under the radar a little bit, just because I felt like guys were going to chase Mahomes and Bijan, Amon St. Brown, and maybe I could get Jefferson through. Obviously, the rewards for tight ends are a little bit lower than they are for quarterbacks, relatively speaking. So I don't know how many people have been aware of that, if they read through the wiki. it was brought to my attention because I was kind of slow reading through the wiki yesterday, amongst all the excitement with the pack reveal, right? So I figured, well, I don't think people are going to be too aggressive on tight ends. Plus, Kelsey's in this drop, and Ferguson, and Fergie's been like, he scored 5 of the first 9 weeks. He podiumed. So I'm thinking, okay, I got a legit shot here at Bowers, especially for guys who aren't necessarily like US guys, may not target him as aggressively as they target somebody like Travis Kelce, who they've heard of before. But I didn't know how to adjust my slippage. So rookie mistake. I didn't realize, like, if I scrolled down a little bit, I could adjust it, and it was set at 5%, which obviously failed. But I had good intentions.
Well, yeah. Did you get in at some point on Jefferson?
I did not. I didn't get in at any point on Jefferson. I actually pivoted. So I ended up coming down to Adunze and AJ Brown. I thought about getting Ladd, and my concept with this is I look at this more like best ball than, fantasy football. You're putting like a lineup together for the season. You're drafting against different people. It's a little different. I'm drafting 200 best ball teams between Underdog and DK. So for the most part, when I look at this, I'm just trying to get high upside guys who can podium for a week. I don't expect them to podium every single week, but I need guys, if I've got 35 active, I need to be able to start 10 wide receivers that have an opportunity to be able to hit 160, 2 touchdowns. That's my guy. So for me, when I look at a guy like AJ Brown, who's had a rough season, but as I'm sure you know, AJ Brown all of a sudden will come out of nowhere. He starts complaining he needs the ball more, and then boom, he's got 8 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. And like that's the game I bought him for. So he really hasn't had one of those games yet. And I think Adunze's been not that he had a goose egg the week before last. He didn't have a terrible game this past game, but I like Odunze's upside. So I dumped a bunch of guys on the bottom end. Olave, Metcalf, McMillan, Etienne, those kind of guys, with the thought that I would just reallocate those resources. So I didn't get completely shut out, but I definitely did a lot more selling than I did buying. So what I'm hoping in the next 2 phases is that now that I understand this a little bit better, I won't get punched in the mouth so easily. So if I want to go hard after a guy like Jamar Chase, I can do that, adjust my slippage accordingly, and then have be able to take all those Olave shares that I had and reallocate them. That's my plan.
Sure. Yeah, and that's kind of the whole idea with it. I assume you're an Eagles fan based on your shirt.
No, I used to own an apparel company and I designed this. So, and it's comfortable.
Hey, comfort is all that matters. No, I agree with you and what you said on that, especially like the soccer. So what we've seen, especially as the season has gone along, is cheaper soccer players that are typically less owned by some people. Those guys, if you have positions in them and they end up popping off, really, really perform well and really win you a great amount of rewards because people just don't own them as much. So, like, for example, I look at it sort of like a price point. Bijan Robinson, he's 8 cents right now. And then let's say Etienne's 2 cents, give or take. I think he's below that right now. Is Bijan Robinson 4x as likely to get into the rewards as Etienne? The answer is probably not. But the answer also is Bijan is probably a better player, longer longevity of his career, better situation. There's just a lot of factors, I think, that go into this, especially like your discussion at tight end. So when we were coming up with the rewards pool and how to deal with the rewards, I was obviously the one that was brought in to handle most of the NFL related thoughts because most of the team doesn't really know the NFL very well. And the idea was they're like, why aren't we doing even amounts at each position comparatively to like how soccer is? And soccer isn't exactly like that because goalies in soccer, less interesting. People just aren't as interested in them. And there's less of them on the field at a given time. So similar with how this worked is, yes, the tight ends pay less in terms of overall rewards on a weekly basis. But the issue was I'm looking at the tight ends list, and I'm sure you can relate looking at it yourself. The bottom of the tight ends aren't the most appealing group of players of all time. And the top end guys are probably more likely to absorb a better allotment of the rewards longer term. Like I would expect Brock Bowers and probably Trey McBride to win rewards more frequently than any other player on the platform.
Yeah, agreed.
And based on that, they don't necessarily need 12% weekly of the reward pool because they're going to be hitting it a lot more frequently over time. And also the position has, instead of 24 players to compete with, it is 12. So you have a lot less players you're competing with on a week-to-week basis. The variability at tight end is probably a lot less than it will be at the other positions because the gap in level of those guys is a lot wider than it is at quarterback, for example. The quarterback gap on a week-to-week basis, like I think looking at things, Jared Goff's probably, knock on wood, like one of the lower end quarterbacks that we included, but I'm pretty sure he ended up as QB1 this past week.
He did.
And that's totally relatable. Whereas it's going to be a lot harder for the lower end tight ends to maybe get up there comparatively.
No, absolutely. Just want to give a shout out. I see a couple guys in the chat, Wilder and McBear. Good to see you guys. So when we talk about obviously the Lions had a great matchup against Washington last week. And, those things, as people who aren't necessarily NFL fans start to understand how much these matchups come into play, like Hunter Henry is number 24 out of 24 right now at, I believe, less than entry price. Let's see. He's a 0.0119.
Yeah.
But the Patriots have a monster matchup on Thursday night against the Jets. And we don't, the Jets actually were somewhat competitive against the Browns this week, but it is the Browns. It is very possible that Hunter Henry can pop off. So I think what'll be interesting is even though this isn't one of these scheduled game weeks, we're going to see people, if Hunter Henry goes 6 catches, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns, all of a sudden, I'm assuming when we see that on the football side, when a guy, I don't know how the football scoring works, so I'm not even going to attempt to explain it. But if a guy pops off on the soccer side, I'm assuming their price also starts to pop off. So I had there's too much sell pressure on Hunter Henry for me now. So I'm just going to ride it out, but and hope Thursday goes well and there's some buy pressure there for me to be able to exit. I'm not a Hunter Henry guy, but he's definitely a guy with the right matchup that could perform. Let me ask you this, Sean. When you look at the market right now, is there anybody that's under 2 cents that you feel like would be a great value buy for someone who doesn't necessarily understand football, but wants to be able to use that strategy of collecting shares and being able to have a high upside guy?
I mean, I think you actually talked about one a bit earlier, and that's Odunze. You're talking about a rookie who is, or second-year player. I can't remember if he's a rookie or second year at this point. Everything blends together after a certain point, right?
Right.
He's a guy that could go out there and put up a pretty monstrous game, and you're getting a super young guy in the league that is got monstrous upside and a very good young offense that the offense is something that is going to be solid long term. Like they have the young quarterback that he can build with. They have a great offensive mind as the head coach. So there's a lot of things with that. Similarly, like we sort of talked about, and this goes into the overall view of how everybody can have differing opinions on stuff. Travis Kelce is good for now, but he's also, like, I would say, of the 72, I think you'll agree with this, of the 72 players that we are releasing, we tried to do the best we could with maximizing the best players, the best scoring players, playoff potential, longevity of careers, aka like we didn't really want to have a bunch of guys that just are out of the league next year. If there's one guy that's out of the league next year, that is the most likely guy to be retired.
Absolutely.
With it, like, not even close. So it's like one of those things, like all of a sudden you're looking at Travis Kelce, and do you want to have 2.8 cents on Travis Kelce, or would you rather have a young 23-year-old Rome Odunze who might have 10 years in the league going forward? So it's stuff like that. Similarly, another thing that I find interesting, if we look at the top 4 players, they're all different positions. Every single one of them is a different position. And I think, and the guy that we both think is the best player that was released today is not even in that 4. So it's a very cool concept from the difference between the soccer product and this product is that I think there's a lot more opinion that can go into players. And like you said, from a best ball perspective, I've played best ball as well, especially the college variety, is there are a large group of people that, they didn't get enough time outside today because everything was going on with this. We didn't get to play as much and get some energy out. But
are you getting are you getting that Arctic blast over there? I hear on the weather's like, the Northeast is going to get slammed.
Yeah, so I'm like, I go between Florida and Pennsylvania during like the fall, so it's not great up east right now. It's definitely got some snow, but
so you're down in the Southeast right now.
You're looking for peaks. You're looking for those high-end scores that if they performed, you're going to get first place. You're not looking for that guy to sneak into 5th. Not saying it's bad. Like, I'll happily take 5th over 15th. But you don't want a guy that's just stable, putting up 15 to 18 points a week and solid. You want the guy that can go out there and put up the Jonathan Taylor 50-point game, and he puts that up, you're getting first place, whatever week it is, it doesn't matter. So I think something is people will have to learn. They'll have to sort of understand the scoring and how it will work long term. But there was a question, actually. Mike Bear said, Ferguson is actually the highest scoring player in the tournament, according to the spreadsheet. Why isn't the community buying him? And you sort of alluded to it when I popped in, I believe. Ferguson is a pretty solid player, but I believe he's probably running a little bit hot in terms of touchdown expectation this year. And also Brock Bowers, who is the clear best tight end in the league, missed a massive chunk of the season injured. So any sheet, any statistic isn't going to properly account for injuries and what has happened in the event of them. If Brock Bowers was healthy all year, Brock Bowers might have been the top tight end 2 or 3 times and it would have pushed Ferguson out. So historically speaking, I think Bowers and McBride, they're more appealing players than a guy like Ferguson. And like what Ace said, people are seeing tight end as a position that just isn't giving as many rewards. So maybe they're avoiding it to some extent. I don't think that's necessarily the best approach with the tight end position, but I think some will do that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to keep in mind that CeeDee Lamb was hurt for about 4 to 6 weeks. And Ferguson was able to feast. I mean, obviously they have Pickens there too. And Williams comes out of the backfield. He catches the ball well. But Ferguson was able to feast during that time. And if you look at I created that shared spreadsheet so people can see who were the top 3 tight ends week by week. It's a shared spreadsheet. It's in the community, the community links. I posted it in there for everybody. So if you guys want to bookmark it, I'll do my best to update it in a timely manner every week for everybody. But if you take a look at that, you're going to notice that on the tight end side, like Ferguson was on fire. He was in the top 3 for the first 7 weeks. I'm sorry, 5 of the first 7 weeks. And he has not got on the podium since then. Not that he won't, because he is a really solid tight end. But, and also ETR and RotoWire have him as 6 and 5 respectively rest of the season. So it's not that Ferguson's not great. It's just that we're hunting for podiums. We're hunting for top guys. And Ferguson might get you 5 catches and 65 yards, and that's the day. That's not going to finish on the podium for you. So that's why people are more than likely dodging Ferguson right now, because instead they're trying to take shots at big time guys. And we'll see how that kind of plays out with guys like Gadsden and Laporta. I do have a ton of Tyler Warren. I bought a ton of Paddocks. So I do have a lot of Warren exposure and a ton of McBride exposure. Not as much McBride exposure as I would like, but I'm going to work on that. So I'm probably just going to end up having 5 tight ends that I really like, and then I'll just roll with those guys every single week. That's going to be my strategy. We'll see if it ends up having me fall on my face. We'll see if it ends up well. Do not take my advice if you're listening to this. Let's see how it works out for a few weeks, and then by like week 14, we'll know how poorly I did or if it worked out well. But I do want to have a little more flexibility personally in the other positions at this stage. Sean, I know you don't have a ton of time because you jumped on with short notice. So
you're good.
I'm actually to bounce and do some stuff. I definitely don't want to hold you.
No, I'm good for a little bit. I had a bit of time in the middle of the day. I was just that was the time when I'd feed the dogs and stuff. So it took me a little bit. But
Sweet.
no, I was pretty. Were you surprised with like the Mahomes difference between him and everyone else, or were you expecting that based on what the conversations were in the Discord this morning?
I was expecting it. So what I tried to do is I put some expected value, and Mahomes was kind of like the dollar that I kind of I pegged everybody else to. So I'm like, okay, if Mahomes go now I will say that I was not expecting him to be double Bijan. I was more or less expecting if Mahomes was $1, Bijan would be like 70 cents. As Saquon will be like 65 cents.
Sure.
And that has been a little larger of a skew than I initially anticipated. I did not expect Bowers to be where he is at right now, as close as he is to Mahomes, and at a higher price than St. Brown and Jefferson. But I also don't understand how this works exactly. On the soccer side, you guys have a better idea of how this works. And if you know that there's a smaller lane for other players, like on the wide receiver, there's so much variance that there are smaller lanes. Bowers is going to have a very large lane. So I assume people are taking your advice on that. Hey, this guy is a podium waiting to happen every single week. It's worth the 8 cents, no problem. We'll see how that plays out. But for me, I feel like my numbers were pretty close. So I don't feel too bad about myself. Mahomes a little higher than expected. I saw him peak at like 0.21, which I thought got exciting for about 2 minutes. And then he started, then all of a sudden selling pressure kind of kicks in, and we see it bounce up and down. But yeah, I mean, so for me, and Sean, correct me on this, but we know from a football player standpoint, Mahomes is just absolutely elite. Most of the time prior to this season, he's had a much better running game, so he hasn't had as much pressure to throw the ball. So we're seeing some fantasy numbers from him that we really haven't seen before. Normally, we're used to him sitting around like 4th, 5th, sometimes even 6th, and then we see Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen just kind of doing everything, and then maybe Jalen Hurts when he actually starts to throw the ball a little bit, put up some fantasy numbers. But I'm interested to see how this plays out with Mahomes, where he's at, because that's not necessarily what we have seen over the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know if he's going to continue to throw that much, and I don't know if his price is going to be able to reflect that, or if it's going to come back to earth. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I think a big thing with Mahomes this year is, let me pull up his stats real quick. I think the big difference for him, I think he's had a lot of ankle injuries in the recent few years, and it's really limited his rushing ability. And I think that we are seeing him be way more active running. So currently this year, he's on like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's pretty in line with season totals over the last 5-6 years. So we are seeing him, partially because of what you talked about, the run game just isn't as good. We're seeing him run a lot more frequently than what we saw. His yards per carry is an all-time high for him in the NFL. He's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. His average career is 5.3. So I think that we're seeing a lot more running game with him, because realistically, that's what leads a lot to the spikes. Is if you don't have the ability to go out and throw for like 404, you're going to need to be able to tack on some yardage on the ground to really sort of propel you forward. And we've seen that more with him this year than what we've seen in the previous 5 or 6.
Yeah, he's got 3 games with over 50 yards rushing, 4 rushing touchdowns. The interesting thing, to your point, is that he's only had 1 game where he's thrown over 300 yards, but he's been a touchdown machine. In his last 5 games, or his last 6 games, he's thrown 3 or more touchdowns 4 times in his last 6 games. That's amazing. It's not quite as great as Matthew Stafford, but
true. Yeah, there's definitely some merit to how sustainable is what he's doing this year compared to previous years. I think the passing definitely is sustainable. The rushing, I definitely have more questions about it. But yeah, for me, like I actually came up with the list of like sort of how I thought the pricing would go today. I thought Mahomes would be the most expensive player, Jefferson 2, Bijan 3, Bowers 4, Amonra 5, which those are the top 5 currently, just not quite in that order right now.
So I really like how you guys did the phases, because what I was concerned about was having like Allen and or Jackson in with Mahomes. But being able to like separate these guys out, I think it's great because we are able to diversify, but it also really helps people who don't, NFL is not like their bag. So they're starting to like understand, okay, these are the guys I want to target. If we ended up, if you guys drop too many studs at the same time, then it's just like total chaos. And it's too hard to be able to pick and pop. And I really love how you guys did this. Even the wide receivers, it's really spread out very well. I think the same for all the positions. The only position I thought was a little heavier today were the tight ends, and that's not a criticism at all. From the standpoint that I think Ferguson and Kelsey are going to be a little overpriced right now. And just because Ferguson's been having a great year up to this point, and Kelsey's Kelsey. Everybody knows Kelsey.
Yeah.
And obviously Bowers is in there, and which meant Hunter Henry was kind of like, whoop.
Pretty much. Yeah,
being that last guy in there.
So a little bit about that stuff, because I do think it was important, is what we did is in the original packs that you got, players were broken down into groups of 18, and then you were basically going to get one player from each of those 18 in each pack. So for example, we'll give you from today's drop, you could not have gotten in the same, obviously every pack was put together, but like from a one individual pack perspective, you couldn't have gotten Patrick Mahomes and Justin Jefferson because they were in the same tiering. So we made sure that it was spread out. Obviously, like there are some players that are more expensive than others in theory, but we tried to make sure that those players were separated into different groupings. So for example, like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, like I would expect Josh Allen to probably, based on what we saw today, I would expect Josh Allen to be the most expensive player on the platform. We'll see if that ends up working out that way. But so when Josh Allen's the most expensive player on the platform, didn't really want to put him and Mahomes together. So we wanted to separate it. And then similarly, I tried to make stuff be evenly distributed within groups so that tight ends weren't just bogged down in one day, and so that they were separated. The issue is like you only have so many tight ends, and when you look at them, you sort of have to make a decision of where to go. So like with Jake Ferguson, part of the issue with him, like we talked about, I think what he's done earlier in the year is going to exceed what he does going forward in his career. Most likely, I think he's had a really good start to the season. It's maybe not as sustainable. But so what happens is he ends up being a little bit higher in a group than what he would have been otherwise. So it puts him together with Bowers instead of separated. But like, so for example, like I tried to keep Bowers separated from Trey McBride. I tried to keep Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I tried to keep those guys separated as best I could. Tried to keep McCaffrey, Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, them. So I try to do as good of a job distributing as I can. Obviously, you can't be perfect, and I wasn't worried about being perfect because I also think another interesting thing is I thought there was legit 5-6 guys you could make an argument today of like, this is the guy I should go for and I want.
Absolutely.
And by doing that, it really forces the hand of, all right, I got to make a decision. Where am I going to go? Because you realistically, you're not getting all of these guys that you want at that dirt cheap lowest price. You're only going to get one, and then you're going to get the next guy at a worse price, but still a good chunk. So I want you to have to make a decision of like, do I want this guy? Do I sort of want to not really deal with him? Would I rather go to someone else? And I think that it was done well. I think I did a good job of separating stuff, making sure that people had to make some decisions while also not just robbing you of ability to get people you really wanted. Like if you wanted someone, you can make it happen. So I tried to do it as best as I could in that situation.
No, I think you did a great job. I've been really impressed with the team. I've been on other sports trading competitive card platforms, and I feel like half the time I'm fighting the team because they're just trying to like reinvent the wheel all the time. I actually said in the Discord, I was like, it's so odd being part of a project where I don't feel like I have to second guess like everything that they're doing. Everything just kind of makes sense. And that obviously creates a lot less pressure on the managers because we can see, okay, this is the way things are going. Let's anticipate. It's easier to pivot. So I'm excited about it. So just personally, and I think you guys have done a really solid job. I know I've told AJ that personally. I've competed with him on some different platforms. So I was excited to see him come over here.
Yeah, you'll appreciate this then, because when I came on, we were discussing scoring system, and I basically said, I'm like, you don't really want to reinvent the wheel. Americans especially there are a few major sites that have very good scoring systems that are proven to work, that we should just be mirroring them as much as we can, because they are simple. They're easily to translate. If you want to go look up projections from a RotoWire, Establish the Run, those sites, makes it very easy. So we're in the first call. AJ is like, yeah, do we want to add like long touchdowns for quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, long pass? I'm like, no, we don't need to confuse people, especially a lot of people are going to be newer to this. You're trying to keep it as simple as possible. And I think the way that we've done it is by being able to mirror a certain site and their scoring system that a lot of Americans are familiar with. And it is a proven system that is, in my opinion, as someone who's been around fantasy sports for like 25 years and who's worked in it for like 10 to 15, it's good. There's no reason to just sort of make it worse by adding different things. So I think the scoring system is good. I'm happy with how it's going. One thing we really liked that we talked about, at least for this year, because it's the launch this year, is we wanted to get it going because there was other competitors that were trying to do poor knockoffs of it. Wasn't really done well. We wanted to get our product out there, so we did the injury cover. I'm curious what your thought is on that. And one of the biggest things, as someone who's played daily fantasy for years, best ball as well, that you're familiar with, injuries suck. And I tried to make it as easily translatable as possible to make an injury not feel like a devastating blow as much as we can, at least for this season, to see how it works. What's your thoughts on how that was implemented, and your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, as fantasy football players, I'm right with you. I remember having to call in if I wanted to pick up a waiver wire, or calling in my lineup in the day, or like picking up the newspaper the next day to do my score. So I'm right there with you in regards to like just being in the space for a long time. But one thing that is very normal for fantasy football players is having handcuffs. And essentially this gives us a handcuff. So that way I'm not worried about, what the funny thing is, and for those of you who are new to fantasy football or new to the sport, the running back position tends to always get a little gnarly, like the back half of the season. So, God forbid we see Bijan Robinson go down. But if I feel a lot more confident buying Bijan Robinson, knowing that I get Tyler Algier. So as opposed to just buying Bijan right now and see what happens kind of thing. You'll see guys and I'm not talking to you, Sean, but for those of you who are watching, you'll end up seeing running backs go down over the next couple of weeks, and their backups will drop 125, 150 into it gets wild, and you're like, who is this guy? Luckily, you'll have a handcuff. We have seen that right now with Mario Hampton. He went down, and Vidal has been fantastic for the Chargers. So we expected, as a Charger fan, we actually expected that from him last year. He never really got the opportunities to get going. This year, all of a sudden, it looks like he figured some things out, and the O-line is terrible. But knowing that I can, in Hampton, gosh, I don't want to say as a Charger fan, Hampton on my buy list, because that's not necessarily true. He is on my buy list because I like him, and knowing that I can get Vidal's points until he comes back makes me feel a lot more comfortable. I understand you guys aren't doing that long term.
Yeah.
And, when you mention the NBA side, NBA is really challenging from like a competitive shares or card standpoint, because you just have so many guys take days off, and so many guys that are like resting. You don't really see that in the NFL. We might see it in like week 18, correct, but we don't really see that. And I like what you guys did with the handcuff. I know that's going to be a short-term thing because we only have 7 active weeks of the regular season. Maybe 8. We'll see how that plays out, but 7, and then we have the playoffs. I do want to mention a couple things that I was trying to jump in on, but you were on a roll. I didn't want to stop you. The one cool thing about Kelsey, so if you're watching and you're going, oh man, should I have not bought Kelsey? Keep in mind that you're going to have the utility for the regular season. The Chiefs typically are a very deep playoff team, so you're going to get that utility of 2, 3, possibly 4 games in the playoffs as well. So don't freak out if you're like, oh my gosh, this is it for Kelsey. You're definitely going to get plenty of utility with them. And I know you guys have talked about being able to reward holders through the offseason for having guys like that. So as opposed to having a player like McBride or like Bowers or like Warren, who obviously you're going to have in 2026. So don't worry as much about that. We are going to have immediate utility with a player like Travis Kelce for probably 9 to 10 games still.
Yeah.
Which is almost like, it's not quite half a season. Well, it's more than half a season. So you're kind of getting 2/3 of a season with Kelce. With the playoff guys, you kind of have to know that. Have you guys started kind of walking through how the playoffs are going to look?
Yeah, we have it. I have it designed in theory how it's going to work. We have to see how many of the players make the playoffs within the positions. That's the real question mark. Because if we end up in a situation, there was at least discussions on maybe we do a drop before the playoffs to make sure each team has one player per position. Not sure if that's the path we'll go. We got to kind of wait and see. But I will say from a gameplay perspective and rewards perspective, if you own guys that make it to the Super Bowl, you are probably going to be rewarded nicely for that. So it's one of those things to sort of prevent sell-offs to that extent towards the end of the season. And similarly, like we are still working and looking into options of rewarding stuff in the off season based on player performances during the year and things like that as well. So there's a lot still that we're ironing out and thinking about longer term. We wanted to make sure that the drops at the beginning, the gameplay at the beginning, and all of that makes the most sense because we knew we had a bit more time to iron out the details on the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm digging it. I'm super excited to get going. And for those of you who have been following on Twitter, or you're active in the Discord, I've been trying to pop out some content. I've really tried my best to keep any of my opinions out of the way.
Yeah.
Because I don't know exactly how this is going to play out. So I can give you my opinions this week, and these guys have great starts and these guys have difficult starts. And but at the end of the day, I'm not sure how this is all going to play out. And I probably won't. It's kind of like when football starts, the first 4 weeks of football, NFL football, are chaos. It is really hard to actually bet and be plus EV because things are so wild. And I feel like it's going to be like that for me, learning for the first couple weeks, like how I got punched in the face a couple times this morning trying to enter the market. Those things are going to happen. I'll be more prepared on Thursday, though. I'll be more prepared a week from now. So I've really tried to just say, here's content, here's information, take a look at it. Here, these are great websites to be able to check out if you want to gather information. I have tried my best to be Switzerland when it comes to, hey, this is a great guy. This guy I pass on. You get 72 guys. They're all pretty good, if not really good. So when people are like, well, how's my pack look? I'm like, your pack looks great. You have a bunch of all pros. Like, what do you want?
I was laughing in Discord when people were like, I got more Justin Jefferson than anyone. That sucks. I'm like, I think he's like the second best player we have. But
like,
yeah,
you should dump that right away.
I would agree with you because two things. One, like I said, we tried to make it even where if you got one pack, you might have gotten very lucky or very unlucky depending on that one pack. But if you got 30, 40 packs, it was probably going to even itself out to some extent. But also, like, everybody that we have for the most part is pretty damn good. I would say as you get towards the bottom end of running backs, yeah, they're not as exciting because that's just how it goes. Similar like the bottom end of tight ends, maybe they're not as exciting. But I would say of the 72 players we have, 60 of them are at minimum interesting guys that are pretty exciting. Like you look at if I look through the list of like the different patches we have, and I'll just talk about the guys that were in the packs today, like the guys that we had in the lower levels of the tiers were probably guys like Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, Cortland Sutton, Hunter Henry. These are all guys that can perform and get rewards. Like I was sending a bunch of people your tweets actually showing what people have done thus far in the season and how they've performed. And I've shown people, I'm like, I think I don't have the exact numbers, but looking at your list, it was like 12 of 12 quarterbacks have gotten a top 3 this year. 10 of 12 tight ends have gotten a top 3 this year. 21 of 24 receivers have gotten a top. Everyone is viable to make a play, especially on their week. And like you said, if you are looking at things, if you really want to dig in deep, which this might not be for everyone, but it definitely will be for some, you can look at the different projection services out there and find guys that have good matchups on a given weekend and really attack that. And if that player performs really well, you're going to be rewarded really well. And the price may go up quite a bit on that player in turn, especially if it's a lower level guy. So I think there's a lot of different paths you can travel down.
Yeah. And you know, I appreciate you sharing the tweets. It's good to know that my hard work is helping people out. This is something I had put out last week, and I wanted to give people just kind of an idea. And these are some very popular sites. And you can go on, anybody can go on to any of these websites, and the top 3, the top 5, the top 5, the top 3 are all free. You can check that out. Now, one thing that you'll notice is it was basically chalk last week, which means these were all no-brainer guys. You're going to see most of these guys in the top 3 or the top 5 every single week, no matter what. But these are all great resources. There's a ton of stuff out there. So if you're new to football, obviously you're more than happy to reach out to me. I think you should reach out to Sean. But I'm more than happy to help you. You're more than welcome to reach out to me at any point.
And even with that tweet, if you look at the tight ends, pretty sure 11 and 12 last week were Bowers and Gadsden at the end of the week.
Yeah, right.
Because that's just sort of how it goes with things. Like they just didn't perform on that given week, and it can be that way sometimes.
And this is the form that Sean was talking about with the quarterbacks and getting hits on here. We do have that shared spreadsheet that I set up. Someone in the Discord asked for it. There is a link to it, but stuff like this just gives you an idea. Like, okay, Bucky Irving, if you don't follow the NFL, Bucky Irving's been hurt. So ideally I would have put like little red boxes in there so you would have known he was hurt. Alvin Kamara feels like, I don't know if he's going to pop off for 125 or if he's going to break an ankle every week. So yeah, you
we're
got that risk reward there.
We released the players like last Friday. I will say that, so the list has been ready for about 3 weeks, and we've consistently like adjusted it based on injuries. So
Tucker Kraft.
So Saturday, I'm sitting there and Adam's like, we released the list on Friday. I'm like, all right, cool, list is good. Adam's like on Sunday morning, he's like, yeah, if there's a big injury, let's just try to remove that player. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, all right, fine. I'll pay attention to the game, see who will release. So of course, Gadsden at the end of the night gets his injury. And I'm just sitting here and because as a Chargers fan, you probably can relate. It wasn't a very clear injury. It was one of those where it was a lot of the time, knock on wood, like you don't want to see it, but you can tell if a guy is badly hurt. The Gadsden injury, it was like directly on his knee on knee contact, but like it was slightly above his knee. And pretty much I was saying to myself, I'm like, could just be a bone bruise or he could have torn his ACL. We won't know. But I'm like, I don't know the answer to this, so I guess I'm going to leave him. But with the injury cover, I was less concerned, although if Gadsden's out, the drop off between him and his replacements
it's nothing. It's like
it's bad. Yeah. Whereas like what you talked about with Amari Hampton, like he got injured, Vidal, there's really no difference. But again, hey, that goes into the injury cover. It's a pretty interesting thing. But yeah, so I'm just sitting here. I'm like, of course, it's like midnight my time, and I'm sitting here watching the replay over and over again to try to decipher if I think it's a torn ACL or not. I'm like, why couldn't this have happened at 1? We would have gotten a response already in the day. But I was like, oh my God, of course.
So I have to ask, with Jaden Daniels going down and with Tucker Kraft going down right before you guys dropped this, who was the quarterback and who was the tight end who got added?
Let me pull
Who were
up
the bridesmaids here.
So
don't say Hunter Henry.
No, so the quarterback list was we were debating between a couple guys at the bottom. We were debating between Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Baker Mayfield. Like they were probably going to be on there. It was probably between the last spot was going to basically be between like Caleb Williams and Bo Nix. And partially what we were waiting to see is like, I was like, the Bears could be 3-8 by this time, or the Bears could be 5-5 in a playoff potential team. So it kind of depended on that. And then Daniels got hurt, so I just bumped them both up. And then tight end, I'm pretty sure it was Dalton Kincaid. I think that we had him left out. And then when the injury happened, I was looking at it and I'm like, man, tight end is rough. I would rather include a guy that is on a very likely playoff team than not. And that's when I ended up on Kincaid. So I think those were like the two guys that were bumped up. But another guy that bumped up, there was a receiver injury a couple weeks ago, I think, and Cortland Sutton bumped up from not being included to being included.
Interesting. And then Dalton Kincaid gets hurt on Sunday, so that's great.
Yes, which I was looking at, and I was like, all right, and I saw the hamstring. I'm watching his video and injury. I'm like, whatever. To be fair, actually, the funny thing about that one, that actually might help, because if he's out, it just might lead to like Knox and those guys getting more opportunities, and they actually could be decent. Whereas, like, obviously, Gadsden's out, the backups are just not going to be very active in the pass game.
No, I do think that, and for those of you who are new to the NFL, as we were talking with Jake Ferguson, getting opportunities because CeeDee Lamb was hurt, we might see some of that go over to Khalil Shakir. So we could see some Shakir bump with Dalton Kincaid not on the field. Josh Allen does spread the ball out so much, but we could see a Shakir bump. Obviously, he has an impact. I think we talked about this earlier, so I just wanted to circle back around. But these were the Week 10 leaders. So it's funny that you mentioned Caleb Williams, who was kind of on the fringe, because he's finished first 3 times this season. He's had the highest score 3 times this season. Goff had only been on the podium once prior to this week. He hits 24.8 against Washington. And Baker, who was a beast last year, struggled a little bit this year. Obviously, his wide receiver crew is pretty beat up, but he finishes in the top 3. And then you've got the halfbacks. The top 3 guys are chalk. Travion Williams is able to take advantage of the fact that Stevenson was hurt. He goes off for those 2 long touchdowns. I like Kyron Williams. I know he had some fumble issues earlier in the season, and Corum's getting a little too many carries for my liking, but I like Kyron Williams. Nice to see him there. And when you look at these wide receivers, Drake London has been on fire.
He's been really good.
Oh my gosh. I think 3 of the last 5 weeks, he's finished first.
Yep.
Which is insane. So he's been killing it. Emeka, gosh, I don't even know when, oh my gosh, why is his name? Mike Evans. I don't even know when Mike Evans is coming back. But he's definitely not getting 1,000 yards this year.
Yeah, I mean, like, just like looking at these guys again, I don't want to give everyone the exact like sort of rank, and the rankings weren't precise. It was kind of like a compilation of what they've done thus far, what they're projected to do the rest of the season, what I think of maybe their longer term potential and their situation. But like those quarterbacks are probably 3 of the bottom 5 that we included. Not saying they're bad by any means, because I think the quarterback position was just incredibly strong. But like when you have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, some people have to finish towards the bottom. But then you move to running back, and like through those top 3 are probably all top 5 guys that we had. And then you get down to Travion Henderson. He was an ad. He was a late ad due to an injury for sure, because he was not really there until Stevenson got hurt, and then I was comfortable adding him. So it's definitely one of those things where it's kind of all over the place, and it really gives you the wide variety of who can finish where.
Yeah, and I think that it speaks to the strategy you were talking about earlier, because Olave has been pretty quiet this year. He's got this rookie quarterback who's just in his 3rd game, and now he finishes in the top 5, and you're going, oh, okay, Olave's got some soft matchups the rest of the season. This could be interesting. He could be cheap. I like Adunze. He had a nice bounce back week. So it is interesting to kind of see how that's going to play out. I think wide receiver is going to have the largest variance. So I'm trying to strategize my 35. So I know on the soccer side, you guys are used to that. I'm looking at this basically going, I don't like these 15 guys. I still have like 25 guys I need to like lob off and put on the bench. And I think that strategy is going to be really interesting. Is there, I can't remember how many active players you guys have on the soccer side. But what was the thought process to like that 35 number?
So soccer is 75 of 139, and I think the idea was to be in the ballpark. So I was like, I said, I'm like, we could pick a number between 35 and 40, because the idea is we don't want people just owning everyone and just doing it that way, because then there's really no skill involved.
Yeah, you killed my strategy.
Yeah, but we also want you to be able to play a lot of players. So I feel by being able to basically play half of the players eligible, that it's more than fine. But it goes into your point of like, I think that maybe you'll have like 12 running backs, 12 receivers, and then like 3 each at quarterback, tight end, and then you have a couple flex spots is what you'll do. I tend to agree. I think that makes a lot of sense. Of the guys today, the best value to me of guys today is Dak Prescott. I think that he is way cheaper than I would expect him to be. Because that to me is like a top end quarterback option that's just like way further down the list than I would have expected. But I think he's a pretty interesting guy right now. But yeah, I think that that's a interesting thing. I'm going to probably, my strategy is going to be, I'm going through each day and sort of like listing who I want to buy more of, who I'm looking to hold, and then who I'm looking to sell to move into more people. So for example, I already sold some shares of some people and then moved in and bought more Bowers, bought more Amon-Ra St. Brown, bought more of those type of players. And what I'll probably do, like, I have a little bit of OCD. I cannot stand seeing odd numbers of shares. So I will probably get to a point where I have like 20,420 of a player, and then I'll just remove the 420 and sell it or buy more of it.
So you must be pretty active on pack days then.
I will on pack days. I will sell whatever to get me to an even number. So like if I have 10,500 of a player and I win like 800 shares, I'll probably sell 300, or I'll sell 1,300 to get me to an even 10.
Okay.
That's awesome. My brain just sees it, and it's like, let me see. I already did it with someone in NFL earlier today. I had like an uneven amount of shares. I'm like, nope, don't like that. Don't like that at
all. See, I don't know the platform well enough to be able to actually look at my shares.
So here, go to roster. Yep, go to roster. If you click to go to the far right where you see the grid view and change it to list. Far right, yeah, right there. And then the second column to the right is your shares of each player.
Okay, so it's not just rounding up. It is rounding up, right?
If you want the actual exact number, if you click on a player, so click on a player you bought today.
Okay.
Let me. So I saw you had 13.3 of AJ Brown, so you must have bought some AJ Brown. So click on AJ Brown. So go to sell, and right there it shows you exactly how many your shares are.
Oh yeah. 302.18. Yeah, that's
so like for me, I'm like, nope, can't do that. I got to sell 302.18, or I'll buy like the amount to get me to that, but I might have to buy like an extra couple, and then I'll just sell those extra couple. Kill myself on fees, total waste of money, but
yeah, right.
Well, so it used to be in soccer, there used to be like, it used to show you that amount in that column to the right. So you would just be sitting there on this screen and you'd be like 9,542.14 shares of Mahomes. I'm like, yeah, can't look at that.
So for someone like me, and for those of you who've been playing soccer, I know you're very comfortable with the interface. I am very clunky on the interface still.
Understand.
Like I couldn't find slippage today.
Sure.
Just little things like that. And I'm trying to figure out, some of the like contracts. When I was reading through the wiki yesterday, I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean we have a contract? And I understand that's very normal terminology in soccer. It is not in football. So, we don't just like loan players. That's not a thing. So I'm looking at this going, okay, I probably am going to need to extend Mahomes' contract at some point, because essentially what this gives me is 8 active games, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And then, so after I play him 8 times, then I kind of need to like energize him.
Yeah, effectively, it's to make it so that you're not just able to just like collect for eternity on like the player. You have to actually extend his contract for games, and I believe it's a 4 minimum. So you can't just be like, oh, it's a great matchup, I'm gonna activate him for 1 game. You buy 4. But I think the idea with NFL, and I could be wrong in this, Adam was handling more of the contract side of things. The idea was basically you have them through the end of the season. So like 8 games was the idea, was like you basically get them through the end of the season. We haven't really talked about the playoffs. Like there's a possibility you may have to extend for a little bit in the playoffs. But that is not sort of like figured out yet. But yeah, and then if you go to the selection page, that's where you decide whether or not you're playing the players or benching the players.
Okay,
So
I
like
did attempt to do this.
Currently, you have 54 active players right now. So you would need to get down to 35 for the given week.
Yeah, I got to clean this up. I'm a mess.
I honestly, I'm going to be honest, I haven't even looked at it yet. So yeah, what you do is it looks like you did it to some extent. So once all you do is click on the green check mark, and then it changes and shows a bench signal. And that would mean that the player's on the bench for the given weekend.
I'll just
you already done, and then you just confirm it, I believe. I haven't even gone through and looked at that stuff yet, though, because that wasn't like something we were that I tested or looked into yet.
Do you know how often this percentage changes up here?
I think it's like every hour. The issue is like a day like today where there's just so much stuff that goes in, it lags behind. It's not very accurate. So my guess would be over the course of like by like tomorrow, it'll be pretty stable most of the day, and you'll be able to look into it. And then once every card or every player is released after the 4th day or the 3rd day of releases, it'll stabilize, and it's typically every hour. But if there's ever any like super like congested time frames, it can be a little bit out of date on that.
No, this is awesome. I think feel like everybody had a good time. I haven't had an opportunity to spend too much time in the Discord since I started the stream, which has now been an hour and 15 minutes. I told AJ, we were chatting yesterday, and I was like, I just want you for 20 to 30 minutes. Otherwise, I'll talk way too much.
Sure.
And nobody wants to listen to an hour-long stream anymore. Everybody needs things like right now. But this has been awesome. Sean, I really appreciate you taking some time and jumping through this. And hopefully, I'd like to – I'm trying to figure out how often I can make the time to stream.
Sure.
But I'd really like to have somebody I can talk football with if you're open to kind of talking about the market and some things that you're seeing. And we can talk a little football for a bit, especially for some of the people who are getting acclimated into the NFL. That would be fantastic. So I'm basically asking you for a commitment right now.
I won't commit to doing like a weekly podcast. I've done that before, but I will definitely be available to come on occasionally, especially in the middle of the week.
Like a 15-minute hit here and there.
Yeah, like a Tuesday or Wednesday, a lot of the time in the middle of the week, I'm typically available, especially around this like early afternoon time frame.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll keep that in mind. I think the community would love it too. So,
yep.
They're going to get sick of hearing me talk about stuff real quick. So this has been awesome, Sean. I appreciate it, man. I hope you have a great day. We'll definitely be in contact.
Sounds good. Have a great one. Thank you for having me.
Later.
See you. Bye.
And that was Sean, PSU2. He is the football guy for Sports.fun /NFL. I'm going to wrap up here in a minute. I just wanted to take one last look at the market. I need to see if I'm going to make any moves as well. I feel like I've been pretty active this morning, as active as I could while also trying to stream, which did not fare very well for me. So I think, I don't know if this is just going to be a me thing, but what I'm going to do when we're done with the stream is I'm basically going to look at my transactions, and then I'm going to look at the prices that players are right now, because I want to get an idea of, did I sell at a good time? Did I buy at a good time? Like, where are we at? Because I think the worst feeling is like you buy a guy at, let's just say you bought Mahomes today at 0.18, and then you look right now and you're going, oh, and it's not a huge deal, right? 0.014, but there is that part of like failure that you feel. And if you bought a guy like Saquon at 0.023 and now he's 0.0596, you're going, yes. So I don't know about you guys, but I will definitely beat myself up or high five myself later based on kind of where I sold guys at. And then I need to look at how I'm going to reallocate. If I'm going to reallocate some stuff today, or if I'm going to use these funds and reallocate more on Thursday and be a little more aggressive on Thursday. So strategy is going to be really important over the next 2 drops. And that is something that by the time next Tuesday comes, a week from now, I'll probably have some good methodology. Right now, I was in the Discord, and I think we were about 3 minutes before this was gonna launch, not the stream, but the market. And I just flat out said in there, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then when, of course, I couldn't figure out the slippage, yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. That's what's going to happen. So I would have loved to have gotten some Jefferson and some Bowers under 3 cents. It did not happen. So it is what it is. I'm gonna chew on that and lick my wounds. Come back, look at Dak. And I wanted to say this when Sean was still on, but he was talking about the value that Dak has right now, and I believe I sold him closer to 0.05, and he's 0.032. Like, he's starting to reach a territory where I feel like I'm going to buy back in on him. And I think that's the beauty of the marketplace that you guys are probably much more comfortable with than I am at this stage. I will likely not stream on Thursday, at least not stream live while all of this is happening, because I would like to make transactions. I feel like there were a couple windows in which I did not perform as well as I could have. Man, so the 2 guys I did buy were Brown and Odunze, and they are definitely much cheaper than I bought them for. And I think Odunze is a hell of a price right now. I'm going to buy more Odunze. I'll probably buy a little more AJ Brown. Jake Ferguson at 0.024. That's beautiful. I sold all my Kelsey. I sold all my Dak. Mahomes is look like he's pretty stable right now at 0.13. So I got to make some real important life decisions here in the next hour. So I'm going to leave it at that. No Miss SW. I don't know if the names actually come through the same on YouTube as they are on here, but either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Feel free to give me a follow on X at Best Baller Ace, and I'm also in the Discord at Aced Out. You guys can catch up with me anytime if you have any questions. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Good luck trading.